Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. We're live. I'm Mary Grace, and this is Real Talk with Mary Grace. We are coming into the middle of January. It's Monday, the 17th of January, 2022. Can you believe it? We've got a great show lined up today. I hope everybody has had a good weekend. We had another snowy weekend. It looks like that's going to be kind of a trend here. So, when I was teaching, there was a year where we had snow pretty much every weekend. It was and it was like the weekends were snowy and bad weather, and then the weekdays were beautiful. And so we didn't actually have snow days, and that was so frustrating. And then it was like that in the springtime too. It was, beautiful weekday weather, and then the weekends would be cloudy and rainy. So I hope we don't have another year like that. But I'm not teaching, but my heart goes out to all the teachers out there who are sort of, frustrated that they didn't get a snow day out of this. Although I think some of the teachers out there need to get their butts into school and start teaching, because we still have crazy people that are brainwashed and think that it's not safe for them to teach. Can't really understand that, since we have entire states open fully and just going about their business. I think we should send these people to Florida, not on vacation, but just so that they can actually see that there's a world taking place right here in America, that civilization has moved on, and that people are thriving and living their lives without the muzzle and the fear. So just anyway, that was a little tangent. That was a freebie. I wasn't really going to talk about that. But what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about a couple things. I want to talk about, President Trump's speech that he did on Saturday in Arizona. And going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening in Virginia, because we got a new administration sworn in on Saturday, and that's very exciting. I want to talk a little bit about what happened down in Texas over the weekend, and just some of the outcome of that, and just let you guys know a little bit about what's happening with that and a couple other things. So, how was everybody's weekend? It's good to see you guys here. Oh, I forgot. When you're coming into the show, please make sure that you share the show out, and that you tag people, and that like if you're on Facebook, please share it into groups and tag people, and then on any platform that you're on, just go ahead and start tagging people and sharing. And if you're in Telegram rooms, please share this link into the rooms that you're in, if you're allowed to do that. Just don't spam them. My Telegram, by the way, is right here. I'm going to put it on the screen so that you can follow it. It's Mary Grace Media Official. If you want to get into the chat, you're going to need to send me an email to get into the chat, info@marygracemedia.com. It's a private chat, because I don't want bots and all kinds of ads running through my chat. So that's Telegram, and then Mary Grace Media Official. That's my Telegram. Okay. Now, let's see how everybody's doing. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you guys. All right. I want to talk about Virginia for a minute, because we have a very exciting new direction in Virginia. This is very exciting. We have our new governor, Glenn Youngkin, sworn in, and we have the new lieutenant governor, Winsome Sears. She opened up the General Assembly this morning, so that's incredibly exciting. And Winsome Sears, and then we have our Attorney General, Jason Miyares, who I believe is of Cuban descent. So it's an amazing weekend, amazing time for Virginia. It's just been delightful to watch the blue check elite privileged people melting down on Twitter over this. For as much as they preach diversity, they sure hate it when it's not aligned with their political ideology, don't they? I mean, it's crazy. So, what did our new governor do starting on day one? Um, he signed some executive orders, but the other thing he did is that he had the road crews out working, ahead of this storm that we got, and that was very exciting. I actually saw where they had salted the roads. We were out doing errands on Saturday, and I didn't notice this before the last storm because you don't really think about it. But when they salt the roads, you can see it. You can see the little lines of salt. And I wasn't really looking for it before we had the last storm. But now that I've seen it again, I was reminded, oh, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do before a storm. And apparently, Governor Northam just couldn't be bothered with that last storm. That was the one that had people stuck on 95 for 24 hours. Now, they're going to tell you, they're going to give the excuse that it was raining. Um, Whatever, the crews still need to get out there, and they need to be ready to start moving that snow. Um, the other thing that happened, so when we had this snow, we live in a neighborhood that is pretty is maintained by VDOT, right? The roads are VDOT roads. It's not a private neighborhood. And so the last storm, I kept waiting for the snowplow to come. And we were in a hotel because we lost power, and I was watching the neighborhood near the hotel that was getting plowed. I think they had a private service, and then the streets all around were getting plowed. And then we got home. It wasn't that far from our house, and then our neighborhood hadn't been touched, just like completely forgotten. And so all that to say, that was the case around the county. There were places that just never got plowed all around the state, and including 95. It just wasn't being maintained. And yesterday, we had this storm, and after the snow stopped, I went outside to start shoveling the driveway. And while I was out there, I saw 3 plows go by in the space of an hour. One of them went, both sides of the street, and then a different one came a little bit later. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. I mean, what a difference a day makes. We have a brand new governor. And the other thing is, I got all kinds of emails. I mean, the communication about preparing for this storm was, at a level like 9 or 10, as opposed to what happened with the previous storm with Governor Blackface, the baby killer. It was like it was crickets, and he barely even made a statement when the storm was in full swing. And I remember somebody saying about the situation on 95 that if Trump were in the White House, he would have had the National Guard deployed out to that highway, to that freeway, to take care of this situation. And I feel like, I know it's kind of a cliche, but the left pretty much destroys everything they touch. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, okay, it's their streets too. It's their families. It's people that are close to them. But here's the thing: when you partner with hate and lies and evil, you can't help destroying everything because you have no value for life. Because the enemy, the devil, our enemy, actually, his entire purpose, his entire existence revolves around destroying us. Why? Because he hates God. He's the enemy of God, and we are made in the image of God, and that's just what it comes down to. I mean, that's the crux of the matter. This is why abortion is what it is, and why they embrace it so heavily. So, they'll virtue signal about, helping others, about doing it for the good of others and things like that. But because of the fact that they have literally partnered with the devil, they default to things that are to death. They default to death and destruction. Does that make sense? It's like it's you are the company you keep. And that is just that's just the way it is. And so even if they think they're doing good, they're actually under deception. And so the things that they're doing are just inherently causing harm and destruction. That is why these Democrat run cities are just an absolute wasteland. That's why the killing is rampant in Chicago, because of the allegiances that these people have. I mean, some of them just outright worship Satan. That's the more obvious ones. But the other ones who are aligning themselves with those leaders, they are either intentionally or by default aligning themselves with an agenda of death and destruction. And so, you can really, really see it. And, I was thinking about an example. It may sound a little woo woo, right? Oh, you can't really, pin that on just an entire segment of society. But I thought about something. When I used to do missions trips, I remember going to Honduras. I was on a medical mission in Honduras, and we we were going from village to village. We would get in this like dilapidated school bus and go, from village to village, climbing up these steep mountain trails, and you get to these little places where you have a clinic set up and people are coming for sometimes walking all day to get to a free medical clinic. And you see, people mostly poor people. And some of them were Christians, some of them weren't. Part of what we were doing was evangelizing. And but one of the things that I noticed very quickly in those villages is, we would be we would sometimes go into people's homes, and as you're walking around the villages, you can see people's homes because they have uh, like indoor outdoor spaces. A lot of their kitchens and their sinks, which is called a pila, are outside, and so you can see them going about their day-to-day life. And one of the things that I noticed, and a lot of people noticed, and it was pointed out to me or explained to me, is that even though everybody was pretty much at the same socioeconomic level, poor, there were some people who brought their children, and the children were like really, really dirty, like pictures and videos of poor kids that you see on documentaries. Where they have like flies in their eyes, their skin is sallow, there's not really much life in them. Some of the kids that we saw were wearing an old ratty t-shirt and nothing else. No diaper, no pants, no shoes. I mean, there was some pretty devastating poverty that we saw. And then, then you would see a child that was, dressed, clean, hair fixed, almost looking like a child on their first day of school. Just like a stark difference, or like they were dressed up for church. And these children had such a light in their eyes. And it was the same with, the families in general, the mothers that usually brought the babies that were just looking like they were in dire poverty. They were also, looking the same way. And so, one of the things, like it was very obvious. And so, the pastor that we were with, he pointed out to us, he said, the Christians that you see, he said, the ones that you see that are clean and happy and joyful, they're poor, but they have Jesus. And because of that, they understand their value and their identity, and they take pride in dressing and staying clean, and they have a light in their eyes. That's the light of Christ. And it just, as I was talking to you about the death and destruction that I see, running rampant all over this country, I just had a picture of that. And it really, if you think about that, it really is a very stark dichotomy between, same village, same neighborhood, one home can be right next to the other. One family is in line right next to the other, and the families that knew Jesus just had, they were light. They were emanating joy and peace and happiness, and their children reflected it. They took the time to dress their children and clean them. And it was like, and I'm talking about, like apples to apples in terms of what they have access to. I'm not talking about wealthy families that had the ability to have their maids dress their children. I'm talking about, you know, next door neighbors who had equal access to water and things like that. But there's just a different priority and there's a different outcome when you have a relationship with Christ. Now, my chat completely went away, and I don't even know if I'm frozen right now because it looks like there's just nothing happening on my feed. If you're here, let me know. But I wanted to give that. I wanted to give that. I wanted to give that that illustration because I think it's a good picture of what we're seeing and what we're witnessing, and for why things just completely fail to actually function. Yeah, and I think Donna is right in YouTube. She says it's hope versus no hope, and I think that's a really apt way to describe it, because when you have Jesus, you have hope, and when you have Jesus, you have hope, and so there is a reason to get out of bed in the morning. There is a reason to put on your best clothes. There is a reason to walk out the door looking your best, and it's because you know who you are and you know whose you are, and that translates into the workplace. There are people working for government who really just don't have they don't have hope. They don't have the light of Jesus in their hearts. They don't have hope for a future. And because of that, when you have a situation like the storm that we had a couple of weeks ago, where people were stranded, these are people who will do anything they can not to work. And the atmosphere and the environment that drives those things comes down from the top. And I'm amazed to see, even in a day, that the atmosphere on in our capital in Richmond has changed, and that people are actually out doing their jobs because there's an expectation from the top to do that. And I spent a lot of time working in restaurants, and so when I go in, and one of the things I learned is that it all goes back to management. Everything that you encounter in a restaurant, the quality of the food, from the quality of the food to the cleanliness of the bathrooms to the servers, everything, it all goes back to management. And and that's the same here. And so again, when your managers, when your leaders are walking a godly walk and their priority is to do all things to the glory of God, then they have a motivation beyond the paycheck. And sadly, a lot of people who are in government work are just there to collect a paycheck, literally, and to getting their pension. I mean, that's just it. And I mean, I could tell you story after story of people who are employed by our government, in the state level, even the local level, and the national level, who just don't even go to work. And the pandemic has actually made that easier. So, going back to my original thought, which was that that the leadership in Virginia has changed. And because of that, we already have a major shift in the way that things are being done. And I want to be clear about this. I want you guys to understand, and I want you to be clear that what is happening in Virginia is a watershed event. What do I mean by that? I mean that everything that you see happening is a harbinger to what will happen this year in the midterms in 2022, what is going to happen in other states and regions around the country, and even at the county level. We the people are cleaning house, and we are doing it in a very big way. And President Trump talked about voting in his speech the other night, and this is a very serious situation because there are voices out there that are sort of uh, banging the drum of not voting. And there are arguments out there to say that you can vote. If you vote, you're propping up a rigged system. Don't do anything until it gets fixed. Um, no, no, don't listen to that. Because the thing is, what we did in Virginia was what we did in Virginia um, was pivotal. Some people will say that we were just thrown a bone so that we would go away. That's not the case. I don't think that they could. I mean, they could, but I don't think that they could rig the entire state, even down to the local levels of school boards and things like that. There's a shift happening in Virginia that is setting the stage and opening people's eyes to what will be happening around this country. And if you are not registered to vote, go and do that. If you are not registered to vote in your primaries, make sure that you are registered. And one thing that you need to check about voting in your primaries is this: does your state have open primaries? If it does, you can vote in the Democrat primary. You can vote. You can vote in the Democrat primary, and you can vote in the Republican primary. Why would you vote in the Democrat primary? You would vote in the Democrat primary so that you could vote for the candidate that they don't want. If enough opposition goes and votes in the Democrat primary in your state, you can actually end up, choosing a candidate for them that they don't actually want, and then go and vote in your Republican primary. The primaries are so important because this is where we, the people, choose the candidate that we want to go and represent us in the midterm election. Those of you who are wondering, well, how did this person get into Congress? How did that happen? It's because they were the candidate. That's how the Dan Crenshaw, McCain 2.0 candidates get into office, is that they were chosen by a primary to run. And if you are in a district that is primarily Republican and you've had a RINO in that seat and you want to unseat them, that is where we get the term, he needs to be primaried. That is where we get the term. You have to go and vote in the primary and pay attention to the candidate that is going to represent MAGA Nation the best. That's the priority. So please understand that, and make sure that your registration is in line. Check to make sure that your address is correct. All of that, because many states have primaries coming up as early as, I believe, April or May. And then also, you may also have a system in your state where you have where delegates choose the candidates in place of primaries at the state level. Our state works that way. And so I registered to be a delegate for the governor's race. And I'm going to be a delegate for the House of Delegates race in Virginia. And so I encourage you to find out what is going on in your state. And then remember that one of the ways that you can have an impact is to become a precinct committee member. That is where you are boots on the ground in your precinct, and that you have a say in how they're actually running the logistics of the actual voting on election day. and prior if they have like election season. So where does that, why does this matter? Getting back to Virginia, what happened in Virginia was a referendum on 12 years of tyranny and virtual communism in our Commonwealth, on unfettered immigration, on CRT being taught in the schools, on all of the tyranny that we saw during the pandemic. It all came to a head. And many people live in states that in your heart, that it's not a blue state. But because of the leadership that has been there, because of the people that have been allowed to proliferate their ideology and to tip the scales to the blue side, your state has become like a de facto blue state. Well, Virginia is an example of how we can flip that back. And, I don't even really like saying blue versus red at this point, because we know that that the RINOs are in many ways worse than the Democrats, because they actually, the Democrats are at least open and honest about working against us. They hate everything we stand for. The Republicans, the RINOs, are really the snakes in the grass. They're the ones that will just lie to your face and then put a shiv in your back, when you least expect it. That's what we're getting from the RINOs. And that is why it's so important that they get primaried, and that they get run out of office, and that you really very carefully choose the candidates that you want. That's happening in Arizona. Carrie Lake is going to get, I believe that she's going to be the next governor. And then you've got Ducey, who's talking about running for Senate. And President Trump came out just straight up and said, there is no way I will endorse that man for Senate. Well, there you go. That's the kiss of death. If you don't get President Trump's endorsement, just forget it. I mean, go play golf, because you're not going to get elected to the Senate unless the deep state just, somehow manages to rig it again. So here's what the governor in Virginia did. This is pretty cool. On the first day in office, he signed 11 executive orders. And here's what he did. He banned the use of CRT, that's critical race theory, and other inherently divisive concepts in schools. He ended the school mask mandates. This is a hot topic right now, and we're going to come back to this. He terminated the entire parole board of the Commonwealth of Virginia. All were Democrat appointees. That's an important one, because if you know what's happening in New York, these criminals are getting, if you know what's happening in New York, the criminals are actually like getting out with no bail. It's called bail reform. It's literally just criminal enabling. All right. He established the position of Chief Transformation Officer to review all government agencies, beginning with the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Virginia Employment Commission. That's a good one. He declared Virginia open for business and initiated a review of burdensome COVID regulations. Yay. Hopefully he's going to go after the Virginia OSHA department. They're horrible. I'm going to do an aside here. During the beginning of the pandemic, I had a client who runs a medical office, and they got reported to OSHA for stupid things like not having enough hand sanitizer. And so they sent somebody to do a surprise inspection. And OSHA, I think I told you guys about this. The woman from the Virginia OSHA office came in, and she was there for like 2 straight days. And I got to tell you, she was sitting there in the conference room with the duck mask on, and she was the picture of an unhealthy person. I mean, like, you name it, the comorbidity was there. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this person who is about to fine my client something like $13,000 per offense. That's a first offense fine. And telling them that the things that they are doing are not protecting their patients. And it was just it was the picture of the hypocrisy that we've seen by these regulatory agencies and these health experts from the beginning of this. It's just absolutely insane. Okay, I hope that he takes care of that. Next one, established a commission to prevent human trafficking and provide support to survivors. 8, established a commission to combat anti-Semitism. That's important, especially with the atmosphere up in Northern Virginia. This is a good one. Withdrew from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That was like the regional version of the Green New Deal for Virginia. It would have crippled our economy. Directed all executive branch entities to reduce job-killing regulations by at least 25%. Rescinded the vaccine mandate for all state employees. And then it gets better. Meanwhile, new Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, who has terminated the entire civil rights division of the AG's office, many of them Soros-backed lawyers. So the reason that that's a good thing, and some of you may be thinking, wait a minute, civil rights, we need that. This is MLK Day. What are you talking about? We fought hard for that. Okay, let's just get this straight. A civil rights division that is backed by Soros, that is staffed with Soros attorneys, is a woke CRT affirmative action criminal justice reform division that lets criminals walk on the streets and doesn't actually put measures in place to help reform criminals. That's not what it's about. Okay, just to be clear, this is a division that is created to make it harder for us to prosecute crime and makes it easier to go soft on criminals. Okay. So here's the other thing about our AG. He also warned all county prosecutors he will be pursuing charges for crimes they refuse to file charges for themselves. This is a warning to local DAs not to do what New York's DA is doing. Pretty good, huh? So this is a harbinger to the left, to the commies. Pay attention, because this is coming to your state after 2022, if not sooner, because we the people are done. We're completely fed up. Now, the school mask mandate thing is very interesting because we're encountering in Virginia the same thing that happened in Florida and in Texas when the mask mandates were abolished by the governors. And that is, you have these rogue school districts who make pronouncements that they are going to they're going to defy it. And even in Alexandria School District, they're doubling down. They're like literally going on a radical direction of making kids either double mask or wear the N95s. I kid you not. I mean, these people, they just, yeah. Anyway, now I want to say something about Youngkin that I came across yesterday. This is really good. I have said, people have raised concerns about him being from the Carlyle Group, which is connected to like the machines, the voting machines, and that he was, they think of him as like a globalist. And so there's been concerns. People have raised concerns about this. And I was on Twitter and I was reading the chat. I was reading comments, and somebody put in this comment that I found to be very encouraging. This person said, I know Governor Youngkin gets the side eye coming from the Carlyle Group, but he was a great leader at the Carlyle Group, and I had the opportunity to work under his leadership. I will be forever grateful for his leadership and willingness to hire veterans and military spouses. He helped create a wonderful environment at the Carlyle Group. I learned so much, and I'm grateful. It was a blessing. I wanted to read that to you because, it could be a plant, right? But I get the feeling that this is a genuine individual who is commenting here. And so hopefully that will put your minds at ease a little bit about who this person is. my feeling was that, you know, and I believe this about many people who are in these positions, is that we have white hats in positions of power. Either they went in initially as white hats, or they were on the wrong side and they turned. Um, and there's different reasons that they turn, but the important thing is that they have. And my belief, my hunch about Youngkin is that he's one of the good guys. Now we're going to have to see what happens. There are people in Virginia, many are holding his feet to the fire. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. He is giving a speech today. He's addressing the General Assembly in Richmond at 4 p.m. today, and so that's going to be broadcast on YouTube. So keep that in mind. If you want to go listen to that speech and hear what he has to say, he's very well spoken. He doesn't come across to me as a schmarmy politician that just says what he thinks people want to hear. I think that he actually is genuine. And I watched a video of him yesterday. He was interacting with a young girl I guess in his new office in the in the Capitol, and she was probably maybe 12 years old. Really shy. Obviously just a thrill to meet the governor, and you can tell a lot about people by the way they interact with kids. I mean, we've got Sniffer Joe, right? We know what he thinks of kids. He's a predator. And kids can tell. I mean, you look at these videos of Pedo Joe and the way that kids, like, they just, it's horrible. I mean, they're going to be in therapy over encountering him. This wasn't like that at all. This was beautiful. He was it was a genuine interaction, just having, telling her a story about this desk, about Governor Wilder's desk. It was just a neat, beautiful, genuine interaction. You can tell that he has a soul, basically. And so, little things like that are things that I watch for when I'm looking for signs about somebody's character. So, well, just pray for him, because, he's taking a lot of heat, especially about these masks. I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of alleged, apparently, parents and administrators who are just intent on defying this and on masking the kids. And here's the thing. Nobody's saying that you can't put a mask on your kid. He's not saying that. He's saying that it needs to be left up to the parents. And that is what he ran on. These people are acting like they're surprised. I mean, McAuliffe was out there saying that the parents shouldn't have a say in their child's education. And, Youngkin capitalized on that. He was like, oh, yeah, they should. And so it only is natural that on the first day of his administration, he would put the power back into the hands of the parents. Now, the kids are out of school today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. The challenge here and the frustration is that, it's one thing for the parents, people like me, would have no problem going into a school and saying, we're not going to do this. We're not going to tolerate it. You can't make us. This is discrimination. And just defying it, right? I mean, you guys know I do that. I do that for my dad to protect him from discrimination as a disabled person. I would do that for my kid. I mean, I'm like a mama bear when it comes to stuff like that. But the kids themselves are the ones that are getting hurt the most, because even a child who doesn't want to do it, who doesn't want to wear the mask, the peer pressure and the fear of just standing out and being different, it's so much more pronounced when you're a child or a teenager. I mean, just nobody wants to stand out that way. Okay. It's really hard for kids. I mean, I was the kid that was always the squeaky wheel. I would have completely fought it from the beginning. But there are very few kids like that, they don't want to be singled out. And we have teachers on Twitter and on social media who are posting about how they're going to basically abuse these children and ostracize them and single them out if they don't wear masks. So they're going to retaliate against your child if you send your child to school without a mask, in keeping with the governor's executive order. We have teachers who are announcing that they're going to do that. And so, pray for Virginia, because Virginia we have so much potential here. We're following in the footsteps of other states that have done this, but the fight is still there. It's very much alive. And so, let's just keep that in mind. And you know, um, yeah, Kathy on Facebook is making the point here. My fourth grade grandson has a mask exemption, but wears it anyway because of teacher pressure. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you've got teachers who are standing up and saying like, who's gotten their shot? I mean, anybody that's ever taught knows that the kids, they want to please the teacher. They want to do the right thing. And if you have a teacher that's pro mask or pro shot, whether they say that they're going to retaliate or not, kids know. I mean, they know that they're being treated like a second class citizen by their teacher and by the staff in the school. Again, it's a culture thing. It comes right down from the top. Now, I want to look at some of your when I look at some of your comments here. I'm just looking at okay. Okay, Mary on YouTube says that she's been against masks, but she's wearing one because she has a bad cough. Okay, so I actually think that's a great reason to wear a mask. I mean, if you have the sniffles or you have a cough, that's actually what masks are for. If you go into public and you have droplets or any symptoms that where you're sneezing or coughing, that's what they're for. And my old doctor's office that I used to go to before they went woke and became vax crazy, they always had, for years, every time you went in, they had a box in the corridor of masks. And it said, if you're coughing or sneezing or you have a fever, any respiratory symptoms, please wear a mask before you come into the office. That is 100% reasonable. That's not, COVIDism. That's just common sense. And so, that's great. I hope you get better, though. I hope the cough goes away. Some people have found that NAC really helps with clearing the lungs, and also marshmallow root. That's something that Millie has used a lot. I've used the NAC, and that really helps. So, what did Christy? Yeah, Christy says, I always smile around masked people. It plants a seed that they miss seeing smiles. Absolutely. The thing that I do too around people is I get close to them in the stores, like intentionally, especially if they have a mask or gloves on. If I'm looking for something in the store, like I'll just go, I'll brush past them, or I'll reach kind of, excuse me. And I invade their space, because I think it's like a kind of deconditioning, like you do with scared animals. You have to like bring them down gradually out of the conditioning of the fear. At least that's my strategy. I don't know if it helps, but I do it anyway. Okay, so what else about Virginia? I think I'm good there. I think just continue to pray for our state, because as things go in our state, it really is just a template for what is going to be happening in the rest of the country. I really do believe that. Uh, um, Oh, okay. Here is Donna, my nutritional expert. She says that deglycerinized licorice, you'll have to explain what that is, dilates bronchial tubes and thins mucus. Deglycerinized. You guys are going to have to look that up. There you go. I've heard of licorice helping with coughs. Okay. That's kind of a homeopathic remedy. Now, what else was that? Okay, I want to talk about the boss a little bit here. The boss. There's a weird thing going around in the media. They're trying. It's like a rivalry. There's a supposed rivalry between President Trump and DeSantis, and people are saying you've got this whole talking point. You got this whole talking point that's been on actually from conservative media and uh, the fake news. I was talking a little bit about this the other day. So they're trying to tell you that DeSantis is going to make a move on Trump for the 2024 nomination, and that he's going to try to move in and edge him out, and that Trump is jealous of him, and that Trump made a dig against him with regard to certain governors that have said that they're not, that aren't disclosing whether they took the shot. And I mentioned this the other day. Um, don't even worry about it, because I keep seeing these stories coming out. They're not backing off that story yet. It's ridiculous. So just forget about it. Okay. Now I do want to talk about the rally in Arizona. Who here watched the rally? It was out in Arizona. I have friends who were there. Todd was there. He was in the way back. He said the crowd enthusiasm was great. And producer Liz was there. My friend producer Liz. She was sitting with Carrie Lake. She had a great seat. She said it was so windy. You could see the teleprompter like waving. So here's one thing I thought. I'm gonna give you my kind of analysis here. I thought that President Trump was a little bit he wasn't as energetic as he normally is, and I think I know why. It wasn't because of anything to worry about. I think partly it was the weather. I think the weather. I think it was really windy, and you're out there in the desert. And so there were just some technical issues that he was dealing with. Now, most people would fold under that kind of ridiculousness. I mean, he even said something to the tech team. He was like, "Yeah, good job with the teleprompters, guys." I mean, he was kind of annoyed, but he doesn't let it throw him. I mean, can you imagine like Brandon out there trying to deal with that? He would be like, "Oh, where's my blah 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 blah," and Trump is just like, "Hey, guys, get it right," and he can ad lib. He can go off script, and he can do it for an hour and a half. That being said, he also introduced basically a new rally speech. And I don't know if you guys noticed that. His talking points, some of them were the same, but he had a lot of different ones thrown in. And really, this was, in my opinion, it was like a dress rehearsal, because, it's one thing to go and to do rally after rally after rally and to have the momentum and to say basically the same thing every time. It's another thing to go months and months without doing a rally and then come back for your first rally and have pretty much a brand new speech. And so I think that he was, I think that's part of it, is that he was just really learning the script, if that makes sense. Now, some of you are thinking, well, he shouldn't say the same thing every time. I'm like, don't be dumb. He's talking to people in every state, many of whom have never heard him before. Those of us who have watched him, nonstop and listened to every speech, we're the ones who get, like, oh, I've heard this before. You're not who he's talking to. He's talking to, 90% of what he's talking about is for the normies, some of them brand new, who just came over, from medical tyranny or whatever. And so he's talking to them. About 10% of what he is saying is for the anons. He drops clues for the people that are in the know that are really looking for deeper meaning behind what he's saying. So just keep that in mind. And so, if you do go back and listen to the speech and you notice a lack of, uh, or a little bit of a flatness, I really think that that is what was going on, because he thrives on this. He thrives on being in the public eye. I mean, he's an extrovert. He loves being on stage. He loves performing. We've seen him do roundtables where he just engages with everybody. And I honestly think that he misses that. And so, give him grace, because I think that his next rally back is going to be more practiced, more polished. He's going to have that energy back. That's just my 2 cents. Now, I think that, I mean, you think about also like his age, and you think about the stamina. I don't know if anybody has ever done any public speaking. I mean, like when you go up on stage and you get behind that mic and you look out in the room, I mean, there's the adrenaline that you get is just off the charts. And I mean, like, I talk on the microphone on the screen for every show that I do. And yet, when I stand up in public in front of an actual live audience, it's a completely different feeling. There's a whole new level of adrenaline that you have to deal with. And he's just masterful. I feel bad for people that are so convinced that they hate him, that they won't listen to him, because I feel like, as much as, how do I put this? There's a whole group of people that have subscribed to the branch Covidian mindset, and they're kind of lost, right? And I feel bad for those people. But as bad as I feel about all of that, I actually feel worse about what they're missing by hating President Trump, because they're missing the goodness, they're missing the warmth, they're missing the humor, they're missing his heart for them. Like, he cares about them, not just his base. And that's what they're missing. They're missing out on arguably the greatest president and in many cases leader our nation has ever seen. And for those of you who are hearing comments and reports about how he's losing his base, you might want to think again, because the line to get into that rally, the cars were backed up for, I think, 25 miles, and the police were turning people away. So if you're tempted to think that he's lost his edge, that the shine has worn off, you might want to rethink that, because the number of people lined up to see him was massive, and everybody and their brother wants his endorsement for running for office. In fact, there are people who make up endorsements, Trump endorsements, and the Trump organization has to send them a cease and desist. So, if he's lost his mojo, then why is all that happening? That's what I would say to those people who are trying to blackpill you and tell you that he's lost it, that he's no longer relevant. So, speaking of that, some of the people try to tell you that because of his mention of the jab, of Operation Warp Speed, of the shots, that's what they use to try to tell you that he's losing his base. So it's very interesting, because people have been reaching out to his comms director, Liz Harrington, especially about that rhetoric. And he also met with a team of doctors recently. And it's really cool, because he's listening. I think that he has a strategy for why he talks about it, but he's also open and willing to listen when it comes to PR and messaging and optics. And so he didn't mention it at all in this speech. In fact, he talked about the mandates, and he came out very, very strongly against them and in favor of personal choice and in favor of protecting our children. He was very adamant about leaving our kids alone, but also protecting them. And I think that was also a reference to child trafficking, in addition to what they're doing to them, with all the COVID restrictions and lockdowns and all that. And he came out very specifically against big pharma. And, he basically was indicting them on putting profit over everything else in prolonging this pandemic. And so, anybody that is thinking that he is a puppet of big pharma, you need to go back and listen to that speech. Because if he's a puppet of big pharma, the things that he said on Saturday would get a bullet through his head. I'm just saying, those people don't play. And, if you've paid attention to him for the past several years, you would know that, they're big mad at him, and they have been for quite a while. And so he certainly didn't help his cause with those evil SOBs the other night. That's for sure. Okay. Yeah. So Gizmo's mom, she's actually going on to say that he actually called the jab ineffective. That's yeah. So he's highlighting what's happening. And here's the thing too. Just remember that what he developed was like round one. Everything else you see coming from these people, this is all on them. And so I think that the shift that he's able to make is to say, um, you know, nobody can do what I did, and you guys have made a huge mess of this. And here's the proof. The proof is in the pudding. The thing doesn't work, you know? So just yeah, just keep that in mind. I mean, I think it was a fantastic comeback rally. And not even a comeback, like it was just, but it was his first rally in 2022. And I really was very happy with what I saw him doing. And the other thing is, like, he didn't have a tie on, he had the cap on. So he was out there. You can tell that he was playing on the home field, for one thing, because Arizona loves him. And he was he used a little profanity, and then he saw a child in the audience, and later on he was like, oh, there's kids here. So I'm not going to say that, but I think it was important actually that he did that he came out the way he did, especially with with no tie, and using a little bit of rough language. That to me was a flex, and it was a good flex, to say, hey, the boss is still here. I'm not going anywhere. And you can take that to the bank. That's what I think was happening. So, I encourage you to go back and watch it. It is on Rumble, on his channel on Rumble. A number of networks hosted it. Real America's Voice did, One America News, RSBN, the Trump channel on Rumble. I know there were others who did, so I may have overlooked them. I think Newsmax did. I don't really promote Newsmax, but so I think it was good. I was really encouraged by it. And so what else did I want to talk about? I'm trying to think if I want to. I'm almost at the top of the hour here. Can you guys believe it? I think I'm going to hold my other topics for to Wednesday. One thing I did want to say though, I saw a really good quote today by Martin Luther King. It says, "Let no man pull you low enough to hate him. Let no man pull you low enough to hate him." And I think that's really good, because I've seen some very interesting things happening in social media lately, especially on Telegram. I've seen, some pretty disturbing interactions that have come at some of my friends, and it's very disturbing, because I see, and it's not just, I mean, it's a lot. There's like a lot of sort of like accusations being hurled, and some of the things that I've seen are just dripping with hate. And I just find that very disturbing, that people that are supposedly, fighting for the same things and supposedly, are believers, and are supposed to be in fellowship, are coming at people with a real hatred. And so I just wanted to warn you about that, not to get sucked into that kind of drama, as it were. Because I think it's very easy to get manipulated into hating people, that into hate in general, but into just, coming at people that really aren't even personally connected to you, if that makes sense. And it's very easy on social media to fall into that trap. And so I would just encourage everybody to examine your heart. And, when you're hearing rumors, or, when you're in a chat or on a live stream where somebody just starts dragging somebody else that you've listened to or watched or know, and you find yourself getting worked up and riled up and all of a sudden like hating that person, you're being a useful idiot and you're being manipulated into hate. And you're actually allowing yourself to be dragged to become like a mudslinger. So that's just kind of an admonition that I wanted to put out there, so that people could really see what's happening. Because if you're allowing yourself to be manipulated into hating somebody, especially somebody that you don't even know personally, um, uh, but then you're actually being used and manipulated. And so you're actually the victim there. And of course, the person that you are directing that hate to is getting hurt. I mean, everybody gets hurt by that. So I wanted to put that out there because, we're coming, just never forget that we're at war. We're at war. And there's the fog of war. There's infiltration. There are people that appear to be one thing and they're actually something else. And you know, there will be casualties. The war is not over. The war is in full swing. The war is heating up. And so, you know, stay close to God, stay in the word, stay in worship, because you really need discernment about what you're being told and about how to handle situations. If you find yourself emotionally lashing out and reacting and, being critical and feeling hate in your heart, that's a big red flag to step back and go, okay, hold on a second. How is this happening and why am I taking part? Just putting that out there. And if it doesn't apply to you, then just move on. But there are people here, I think that there's a certain kind of excitement that comes in getting wrapped up in gossip and drama. It's almost like a reality TV experience, and people actually. It's like every time you interact, there's like a dopamine hit, and people kind of thrive on that. And so I would just really take a minute or two for some reflection about if that's you and if you are seeking out drama. Um, and then just ask yourself, like, what does this actually accomplish for our movement? How does it help MAGA Nation? How does it help freedom? How does it help the cause of preserving and protecting our freedoms in this country? And if you don't like the answers that you get, it's time to adjust your course. Okay. Um, yeah. Yeah, if you're saying that you are a Christian and your actions and words are um, indicating otherwise, that's a big red flag that you're actually being used by the devil for other things. Okay. So, yeah, and Donna says hatred makes people feel powerful. It's a false sense, and you're trapped by the enemy. Exactly. Yeah. I love all the wisdom here. It's great. We're crowdsourcing wisdom today. Um, that's awesome. And that exact what you're seeing right now is a perfect example of, you know, let no unwholesome word come out of your mouth except that which is good for edification, right? What is that scripture? I don't have the address of it right now, but that's what I'm talking about. That, what is it that you're saying? What is it that you're typing on the keyboard? And how is it edifying the body and your brothers and sisters that you call, that you call the people that you call brothers and sisters in Christ? Because if Christians are treating each other that way, imagine what that looks like in to the outside world, to those who don't know Christ, because the Bible says that they will know um, that Christians will be known by their love for one another. It's not by the things that you say or type on a keyboard, or that you say that you do. It's by the way that we love one another. Okay. Um, so, uh, yeah. Um, okay, just looking at your comments here. Ephesians 4:12. Is that the one that says somewhere in Ephesians? I have two Ephesians scriptures here: Ephesians 4:12, Ephesians 4:29 and 30. I'm going to look them up, and then we'll sign off. Okay, so 4:12 says, references the equipping of the saints and for the work of service and the building up of the body of Christ. Yeah. So that's why we have these gifts, right? For the building up. And so when you're involved in conversations, whether it's virtually or in person, that's a really important question to ask. Is this building up the body of Christ? Um, Oh, thank you. Here's my scripture. Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving each other, just as God in Christ also has forgiven you. Boom. Okay, that is what we're talking about here. All right. Uh, okay. So thank you guys. This is really good. I appreciate everybody's input here. Please um, pray for our president, our rightful president. Pray for all of the people in Virginia who have recently just taken office and people that are moving into this new administration and their jobs. Like I said, you may not care about Virginia specifically, but this is a prototype, a template for taking back our country, and this is really important. Pray for the interactions among believers, because the things that I'm talking about are happening between people who are calling themselves Christians. This is not the hateful leftist blue checks that are coming against believers. This is actually, people who are calling themselves believers who are like attacking other believers. That's not cool. Okay. And speaking of which, I wanted to say that I have been reading Praying Medic's chat and his channel lately. And if you haven't been over there lately, I encourage you to go and look at what is being posted, because he is posting testimonials, sometimes like a dozen a day. And this is really very, very encouraging. There are testimonies of healing. There are testimonies of provision. There are testimonies of just all kinds of things that God is doing in people's lives. And I really encourage you to go over there and read those things because it's exactly in line with what I've been talking about. What is it that you're saying? What is it that you're meditating on? What is it that you're feeding your spirit with and your soul? Go and check out his timeline, his Telegram room, his Telegram chat, and also be aware that that Praying Medic has a website, prayingmedic.com, Praying medic, MEDIC, and he has a Telegram page and a Telegram chat. He is not on other social media at the moment, and there are lots of fake accounts out there. If you see any accounts that are labeled Praying Medic, there's a YouTube account out there right now that's a fake account. People download his stuff and then they put it on these accounts. Those are not his accounts. So he's on Telegram and he's on his website, prayingmedic.com. He also has books on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So I just wanted to put that out there. He's been on my show before. He is a brother in Christ. He does a lot of teaching about healing. He has a number of books about that. And I just wanted to encourage people to go and check that out. Also, let's see, a little more announcements here, a little more housekeeping. Please make sure that you're following all of my channels on social media. I'm under Mary Grace Media. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram under Mary Grace Media. I'm on Twitter, Real Mary Grace One. I'm on Clout Hub, Mary Grace Media, and that's channel 111. So follow my profile on Clout Hub and follow my channel on Clout Hub. That is the first place I'll be if everything else ever gets taken down. And then, of course, when Truth Social launches, which I hope is very soon, I will be on there. I'm on Getter as well under just at Mary Grace. Um, and my profile picture is a picture of me shooting skeet with a shotgun. So if you want to go follow me over there, you can. Let's see, the Telegram. Okay, what else? Shopping. Everybody get ready because we're doing our superfoods transformation. There is going to be some live coaching. I talked about that. If you want to get in on that and you want to you want to order superfoods and you want to get a voucher promo code to save money on that, it's going to be contact me, info@marygracemedia.com, info@marygracemedia.com. If you want to get CBD, go to shopwithmarygrace.com. Let's see what else. Hey, I had a number of people write to me about the job opportunities with the company that does the recovery, storm recovery. They're based in North Carolina. I did speak to them the other day about. I did speak to them, and they're taking applications. Um, it's Go back and listen to my show the other day. I was talking about this. This is a good opportunity for people who have flexibility in their schedules and who want to get involved with this type of work. It's storm recovery. Um, and some of it is like, working in a dispatch. Some of it is working in the field. So like having a four-wheel drive and taking generators to um, telephone um, towers or power, um, what do you call them? Outposts, and installing generators, things like that. If you're interested in doing that, definitely watch. Definitely go back and watch my show from the other day. Stephanie said Chris got a badge number, but not sure what the next steps are. He should have gotten an email. I'll contact you. We can email back and forth about that. The fact that he got a badge number means that they have him on the roster now, and so the next opportunity that comes, they'll contact him and see if he's ready to deploy. So anyway, I won't go into too much detail about that, but definitely check out my show from last Thursday about that. I'm going to be back on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. I have a situation where might have to get my heating system replaced, and if we have issues with that, and I'm not able to, and I've got workers here, things might have to shift. Okay. Yeah, Diane, I saw your email. I will get back to you about that. And we'll check that out. Okay. So, all right. Yeah. So send me emails if you're putting stuff in the chat. I don't want to answer people individually about that in the chat. So go ahead and email me info@marygracemedia.com, and I will check in with you guys. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Make sure you jump over to Elijah Streams on YouTube and listen. They've been doing some amazing broadcasts, and so I would definitely encourage you to go listen. Jeff Jansen is on today. He's always so encouraging. Um, and I will be back on Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Have a great day. Thanks to all my moderators. I appreciate everybody for being here, and take care. Bye.